It was one of the methods that Buddha used over 25,000 years ago on how to just release this subconscious mind, release these programs. We call them sankharas. Release them, just let them melt off. And as he said, they'll keep coming back, but every time you release them and let them go, they come back a little easier and easier. And you who have taken treatment knows that sometimes when they get so strong that we even go into an extra step in treatment. We do a denial. You know that step? I know you are there. I know you're appearing like this, but I know that's not the truth of me. That you are just an appearance. Yeah, you're just a Mr. Puffy. You're full of hot air, balloon juice. Yeah, get thee behind me. That's what Jesus said. You know, when Jesus' song chorus started coming up, when his program started coming up, Jesus said, get thee behind me. I ain't got no use for you. Yeah, how beautiful that is. So here we are. I'm there, and all these programs are coming up. So I'm using these programs. These programs coming up. And in many ways, I'm fighting the law. At first, I'm fighting the law. Coming up, and I'm trying to fight these programs. And fear, fear comes up. Fear is a strong motivator. And fear, have any of you ever had fear come up in your life? Fear can come up and be so strong sometimes. It's just tough to try to maneuver around it, to even think around it. That's where we are so fortunate. We have practitioners. If you ever get stuck, call a practitioner. Call me. Call Reverend Mary Jo, Reverend Darrell. Call Jerry. Call these practitioners. There's a whole bunch. There's a lot of practitioners and ministers here today. You just call them. And they won't believe a word you say because they don't listen to, we call them stories. They don't listen to these programs. Some of you have been to me. Did I listen to the programs? Did I? No, don't listen to programs. Sometimes I talk ugly to a program. Because sometimes programs get so stubborn they don't want to leave. Oh, but you don't know my story. Oh, my story this, my story is that. You have to get rid of it. Detach from it. Let it go. Just let it go. Let it go. So that's what that was. So they started coming up for me, and I was dealing with them and just working with them, being in silence. Being in silence. But there was one, I wanted to share this. When I was going to take off, I told Dr. J, I said, Dr. J, I'm going to go to a silent retreat for 2 weeks. He said, wow. I said, you think you can do it? I said, yeah. He said, well, you heard the story about the monk. I said, yeah, I think. And he told me the story. There was this young monk who went to this order and was a vow of silence. There was a vow of silence. So they gave him the rules. Could only speak 2 words a year. You guys have heard this, huh? You could only speak 2 words a year. And that was to the director of this community. So the first year, the young monk came up to the director and looked at him and said, what a cold! Director bows his head. Next year goes by, the young monk come back and he said, this hard! Had to put a little body motion in there because he wanted to get that across. Director just bows his head. So the next year, the monk comes back and the monk walked up to him and said, I quit. The director looked up at him and said, good, because all you've done since you've been here is complain. But I had a fun time. It was actually a fun time. And I got to see me and much of the stuff we was doing, other than being silent, and we do that sometime in religious science, was like religious science. Religious science. One of the things I liked especially that they had was experience. Experience. Dr. Holmes said of this teaching, He don't care how much book knowledge you know. You can memorize the whole textbook. He wants to see you use it. In his poem, in the epic poem that he wrote, he said, I want to know. He studied he goes through all the great teachers. Yeah, they have talked about it, but I want to know what I know. And each one of us, that should be our duty, to know what we know. To know what we know. And that's what I want to do. I want to know what I know. I want to see my work. I want to see my work taking form. And I know I'm speaking for you when I say that. I want to see what I can do. And that's truly the valid measure of each individual. Results. 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 Often harsh, but always fair when we look at this results. Oh, how great this is. Now, I'm going to break away here and close. But I want to close with something very special here. And that is, there's things about the law on how to fight the law. And I hadn't gotten to that, but I want to run through this real quick. This is some ways we fight the law. If I say I want this but expect this, what is that? Fighting the law, right? If we wish for everything to get better but expect it not to be, what is that? Fighting the law. If we say we like everybody around us to improve, but every time we describe them, we describe them in a limited way, what is that? Whenever we cry, poor me, and thinking want to be for the better for ourselves, what is that? Fighting the law. Based on our concept of ourselves, on what we do, what we've done, and not what we can do. When we base the concept of ourselves, each individual, on what we have done, instead of what we can do, what is that? That's fighting the law. If we come in from history, and try to determine what we can do, that's fighting the law. And guess what? The law wins. In each one of those cases, the law takes the lower case, because that's the one we give power to. That's the one we are thinking about. It's done unto us as we believe. In Mark, it says, the man says to Jesus, Lord, heal my unbelief. And Jesus said, it's done unto you as you believe. He said, I believe, but heal my unbelief. And that unbelief is that fight, the fight that goes on inside in us. And that's beautiful. Now, Cher has a poem called Decision. And I'll just paraphrase it in her book. You know, I was Cher Willard, and it's called Decision. It's right near the back of the book. And it's all about detaching from that part of us that we describe ourselves. That part that we describe ourselves as who we are. And move to that part of ourselves of who we truly are, mighty moving powers of God in our world. I said, well, I'm Lacy Atkinson. I'm Reverend Lacy Atkinson. I'm a minister. I stand in the pulpit, and I come to Center for Spiritual Living in Fremont. I drive my car, I drive a little red car, and that's who I am. Well, that's limited me, isn't it? And hers is about detaching from that limit and know just who we are. That we are mighty moving powers of God in our world. And when we align with the universe, we stop fighting the power. We stop fighting the law. And we move in alignment, and we move into silk, a smooth, loving living, more better living. That's what it is for you, more better living. Let that be your way. Thank you.